Hey everybody, and thanks for watching Woodcrest Bonsai. Today I'm going to work on some crepe myrtle. So crepe myrtles are a deciduous tree, so as you can see this one is totally bare. In the spring they sprout with their leaves, and then in the summer they produce beautiful flower clusters in many different colors. And crepe myrtles come in a huge array of different varieties based on 5 different parameters. The first is the flower color. So they can go from white all the way to deep red, fuchsia, magenta, deep purple, pinks, lavender, all different color flowers. They also differ in their ultimate size. So there are large varieties that get 25 to 30 feet, and there are dwarf varieties that only get 4 or 5 feet. In fact, I was a landscaper most of my life, and I still drive by a house where I installed a dwarf crepe myrtle 30 years ago, and it's still only about 5 feet high. Typical crepe myrtle gets about 15 to 20 feet. They also differ based on their fall foliage color. Some of them just turn brown and it falls off, but the leaves can turn yellow, orange, and there are even some varieties that get a very deep magenta, purple, burgundy color to the leaves before they drop. They also differ in how much exfoliating bark they make. So this tree has a giant scar, so the exfoliating bark is really going to be minimal. But typically trees have some amount of exfoliating bark, so the bark peels away, and there you have kind of a multi-trunk effect between the new bark that's underneath and the older bark that hasn't peeled away yet. And then the last and most annoying thing for me, as you can see with this tree, is their propensity for producing suckers at the base. And this tree is a variety that just produces sucker at the base constantly. So I mean, I have let these guys go for a pretty long time, so they all should come off. I don't want any of that there. But when you cut them off, they're just going to come back. So it's a constant maintenance. So today I'm going to root prune and repot this guy. And I'm going to begin by just shortening some of the suckers. When I take the tree out of the pot, it's in a landscape mix and it has degraded tremendously. And I'm thinking very seriously of removing all that old soil and then getting down and trying to take my concave cutters and cut off all those suckers at their source. It won't stop them from forming, but it will at least delay their appearance. So once we take those off, then we see this tree has a pretty nice form, but it does have some things. I like all my branching to come out this way, so this one here is going back towards the trunk, so I'm going to take it off. And then these are also kind of going back towards the trunk. There's one up here that's going back towards the trunk. Some of these are a little too long. Trim these guys here. And I've got a little bit of confusion with the apex. Is this the apex or is this the apex? So I think I like this part as the apex, so I'm going to cut some of this away. And crepe myrtles only bloom off of new growth, at the ends of new growth. So they present a paradox for a bonsai grower because we want to keep pinching, 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 pinching to create the ramification. But if you continuously pinch throughout the year, because crepe myrtles bloom sometime between June and August, which is another characteristic that they differ. There are early varieties, mid-season varieties, and later varieties. Then you don't get any flowers at all. I usually allow this guy here to flower a little bit. So what I do is I pinch to create, the ramification that we have here until about the 1st of June. Then I stop and allow it to elongate. And the elongation is minimal. So what happens is a tree in the landscape will produce a flower cluster of 50 to 80 separate little flowers. Each flower is tiny, but put together they make a beautiful show. This guy here, when it flowers, each flower cluster will have maybe 6 or 8, so much smaller, but it's pretty. So, I like to have it flower a little bit. So 1st of June, I stop pinching and let it flower. And we will see that this summer. Okay, I think that's pretty good with the top. And now it's time to get in there and remove the soil. This tree has a huge knob underneath that I've attempted to reduce, but it's really hard to reduce. You see what I mean? Right there. Almost need a chainsaw. You see, that's a big chunk of trunk. Chunk of trunk. Trunk of trunk. And I think I'm going to actually wash all the rest of this soil off, which means I need to go to my hose. So I shall return with all the soil washed off, and then we can go from there. So the vast majority of the soil is now gone, and I'm now going to take my concave cutters and try to go down as deep as I can and get rid of the suckers. And it won't stop them from coming back, but it at least will delay it. Once it's in a pot, it's impossible to do this part. So you just really cut the suckers off at the soil level, which is all you can really do. And obviously I didn't even do that last fall. There's another one that's coming from there. There's a few more. Look how far down they are. Okay. And these roots here are really high, and it's just so hard to cut the rest of this. I'd almost need a chainsaw. So I'm going to put it into a larger pot. It was in, okay, no more suckers. It was in a plastic bonsai training pot. And I'm now going to put it into this oval. And because it's already a little too high, I'm not going to add any soil. That's another sucker right there. I'm not going to add any soil on the base. Just put it in there like that. Really haven't root pruned it at all because it doesn't really have that much root to begin with. But it's nice, it's much lower. See this root right here was actually up above the soil level in the other pot. So this would be much better. And I think I want it up a little more like that. So I am going to take some soil. And I'm using a fairly coarse mix. And I'm just going to add a little bit under the base to get it like that. There we go. And then just begin to fill the pot. And once again, I forgot my chopstick. What's new? I think my sifter missed a chunk. And this soil is a mixture of red lava rock and a little bit of granite and some Chattahoochee stone. No organic matter at all. And I do believe at the end I'm going to top dress it with a smaller grain. And I like to get my soil about 1/4 inch below the rim of the pot so that when I water, all the soil doesn't come flying out of there. And that, oh, there's another chunk. How did I get those big chunks in there? Alright, that's looking pretty good. And now, just a top dressing of a much finer mix, which will make it look prettier. And we want it all to be pretty. Some in the back. And even though this tree is dormant, I'm still going to give it a good watering in right now. Crepe myrtles are one of those that has very poor drought tolerance. So you need to keep your crepe myrtles moist at all times. So how are we looking? Let's get this guy out of here. Alright, that looks pretty good. So one crepe myrtle repotted. And Mother Nature has been very good to me in keeping things cool so that my deciduous temperate trees have not broken dormancy yet. So I've still got time to do things. And I think off camera I'll probably do it because I didn't bring it with me. But I would do some lime sulfur on the scar. There was a time when there was a little fern coming out of the scar, which was pretty cool. But it didn't make it. And poof! The sun is out. Actually, I had a little bit of time in between recordings. So I find it interesting because in the summer there's far more shade where I'm at right here because the trees are much taller further to the north. So as the sun moves higher in the sky, I get more shade. But you can still see it, right? So there's my very old crepe myrtle, repotted. And I'm going to water it really well. I think I might have already said that. And then when it sprouts, I will continue to pinch and pinch and pinch to create more ramification. And then about the 1st of June, I let it elongate. And it should flower a little bit. I kind of like having flowers on my crepe myrtles. Even though, you know, most bonsai purists would say, no, pinch. Pinch to create ramifications and just sacrifice the flowers. But it's kind of cool to have some flowers. So you will see that. And the best way to do that is subscribe and hit the notification bell. So when I do post another update on this guy, probably when it has flowers, because the ramification stage is just the same as any other plant. When a branch grows to 5 leaves, cut it back to 1 or 2. And if you do that conscientiously on all your trees, you will have some fantastic trees, because that's the best way to create ramification. When they grow to 5 leaves, cut it back to 1 or 2. That's what I try to practice. I have way too many plants to do that on everything. But thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And once again, if you want to see it in bloom sometime probably around July, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you can watch all of my trees develop. And I still have some elms I need to get to. I still have some bald cypress I need to get to. But because we've still had quite some cold, I think I'm going to be able to pull it off. And the worst case scenario is if they do begin to sprout and I can't root prune them, I can still work them, just wait to root prune them next year. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and of course leave a comment if you'd like. And I will see you in the next video.